And welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Always Pressing PGA DFS podcast. This week, previewing the 2019 Farmers Insurance Open. You can find me on Twitter at BDintric and the podcast at Always Press DFS. And then my co-host, as always, on Twitter at DFS Golf Gods. Jesse, how we doing, man?
Doing well, man. Apologize to everybody out there. We were about 20 hours later than usual on getting this done, but I think it'll actually help a little bit this week looking at some ownership and just gathering some better thoughts too. So excited, man. Big week.
Yep, big week, awesome field. Yes, the delay was on my part. A lot of interesting circumstances took place, but we're good to go and knock this out. It is a fun, full-fledged tournament we have coming up here down in La Jolla, California. But before we get to that, Jesse, let's recap what took place at the Desert Classic, where Mr. Adam Long, and I have no idea who he was until he shot the best round of his entire life. He won the Desert Classic. Any thoughts on that? 26 under, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, he went into Sunday. I think he was 3 shots back, and then stared down Phil Mickelson, one of the greatest golfers of all time, and Adam Hadwin, who's got great course history there, and took them down. I don't know if everybody watched the highlights or the broadcast, but he had a hell of a shot into 18, and then he had a really good read from Mickelson. Mickelson was probably about twice the distance he was. Mickelson ran his by, just barely missed it, had a really good read. So he was able to sink his putt, about a 14-footer there to win it. Web.com grad, grinder, just a guy who's out there trying to make a living and finally gets his breakthrough, man. I mean, wins $1 million effing. Pretty amazing story, really.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. And I can't remember which Monday qualifier tweeted out the paperwork that he said, well, I guess I'm only going to be playing with one other guy today because I guess because he says, I guess one other guy won't be playing with us as well. And Adam Long's name was on there because he automatically qualifies now for the Farmers Insurance Open instead of having to qualify like he's been doing most of his career on Mondays. So, yeah, it's quite life-changing. He gets $1 million. You know, he'll be in the Tournament of Champions, which is a guaranteed no-cut event. There's a lot of things there. A Masters. There's going to be a lot of things starting to look up for Mr. Adam Long, who literally is not even disrespect to him. I had no idea who he was. Had nothing on the radar. And like a lot of interesting names climbed up that leaderboard at the Desert Classic this last week.
Yeah, I was watching, Twitter on Sunday, and one of the guys who I follow was, like there's a professional golfer who is 3 shots back and 22-1 heading into the weekend or heading into Sunday, and he bet him, and of course it hit. So, I mean, you weren't the only one, or you're not being disrespectful. I mean, he was disrespected the whole entire week, I think. But at the same time, I mean, it's Adam Long, never been in that position before, fresh off the web, didn't really, shine on the web like M or Cameron Champ. But that's golf, dude. And I mean, fuck, why are we trying out here trying to predict this shit? I mean, come on, man. Adam, I mean, that's golf, dude. I mean, any week, these guys are so good, and the margin is so thin that literally, if the putter gets going, they get a few lucky breaks, anybody's liable to be in at the end on Sunday.
Well, that's the beauty of it. That's one of the things there's a lot of chatter in the SD Slack chat this past week about like predicting golf. And the good thing is most of the guys in that chat have a level head on the fact that it's just crazy. You just kind of set your, and that's what the podcast is for, is, put yourself in the best possible position. But yeah, any given day, you're going to see some craziness happen. But I wouldn't be shocked if we don't hear from Adam Long for a little while, or you never know, maybe he makes another run. But I know he's super cheap again this week. But awesome for him. Absolutely awesome. Career-changing type stuff, life-changing type stuff. Pretty darn awesome. Let's talk about Phil. Goes and shoots 10 under on Thursday, just torches La Quinta. And then he obviously played well. He finished right 1 shot off the lead, but he seemed to not really have his foot on the gas like you'd expected after the first round. But any thoughts on Phil?
Just that, we just keep underestimating him. He's getting older, but he still can hit really, really awesome golf shots. Still got a great short game. And as long as your short game is good, I mean, I think you can compete on the PGA Tour, given all the other variables. So, he's not going anywhere. And That sucks because I'm not a Phil fan, but here he is. I mean,
his short game was ridiculous, especially on that round of 60 he had. That was just like every flop shot he could hit, every chip shot he would either hold it or almost hold it out of the bunker. He was just money on his short game. It was vintage Phil.
Yeah.
It was pretty good stuff, but it was total. I would love to know how much money he had on himself to either first round lead or do something in the match, because he literally tells everybody earlier that he's rusty and he doesn't really think he's going to have much this week, and he goes out and shoots a 60.
God, it's like, dude, I mean, wow. That makes it even worse. That really makes it even worse. You know what I mean? But that's golf. You know what? Because he's going into it thinking he's rusty, so his mind is kind of at ease to begin with. He's not expecting to go out and shoot 60. So he's relaxed and he goes out and fires 60 on him. It's golf.
Yep, that's golf. And the other guy, Adam Hadwin, for anybody that doesn't believe in course history, I really don't know what else to tell you about Adam Hadwin, but he absolutely loves playing at the Desert Classic or the Career Builder or whatever it's going to be called. He came oh so close. He had the lead going, looked like he was going to finish it off, and then he kind of fluttered, and Adam Long came through. But Adam Hadwin looked damn good.
Yeah, it was a good week for course history truthers. I was not a believer in Adam Hadwin. I'm normally a believer in course history. I was not a believer in Adam Hadwin last week, and he obviously proved us wrong there.
Yeah, it was more against Adam Hadwin's game than against Adam Hadwin's course history for me, and more of the price tag and playing the game with DFS that we love to play. But it was a damn impressive week there, and overall a really good week. Any final thoughts from the Desert Classic, or do you want to move on to the Farmers?
I'm ready to forget about that tournament, man. It's so tilting. 3 days over 3 courses and no shot tracker on half. It's just, let's move on.
Well, let's go to the Farmers Insurance Open down there in La Jolla, California at Torrey Pines, where we get two courses on Thursday and Friday, so not 3. And then you get the South played on Saturday and Sunday. Lots to like there. But before we get to the course preview, Jesse, you got some past event history?
Yeah, so the Farmers Insurance Open, like you said, it's played at Torrey Pines. There's 2 golf courses, rotation Thursday and Friday. I'm sure you'll talk about it. Last year, Jason Day won this tournament. This is, I believe, isn't this where JB Holmes slow played Alexander Noren?
Yep, he slow played him on 18. There was a 3-man playoff. He went to Monday.
Yep. Jason Day won in a playoff, a 3-way playoff over Noren and Ryan Palmer. He shot 10 under for the week, and the other 2 did too, but they lost in the playoff, obviously. Year before that, John Rahm, I believe this is obviously this was his first win, but he made just an absolute bomb on like 17 or 16. I believe this is the tournament, could be wrong. Yep. The year before that, so he was 13 under. John Rahm was. 2016 is when a hurricane came through, I believe, and Brant Snedeker got in the clubhouse before the weather got real bad and beat KJ Choi by 1 shot. Jason Day, his first title was 2015. So other than that, Tiger Woods has won here 7 times. Snedeker has won here once. Bubba's won here once. John Daly won and broke up Tiger's streak of 5 straight titles. Or 6 straight titles, excuse me, because Tiger won it 4 straight times, 2005, 2006, 2007, 2008.
Yeah, he's pretty good.
That's not even including the U.S. Open that he won here, too. I believe he won a U.S. Open here, too.
Yeah,
right?
I was just about to say he won the U.S. Open. I was there, I believe, back in 2008. He's good. He's good at golf, and he's back this week. If anybody hasn't noticed yet, I know we're a day late on recording, but if anybody doesn't know yet, Tiger's back this week. And again, we're at Torrey Pines. There's a South and a North course. South will be played over the weekend, and then each golfer will play both courses Thursday and Friday. South is the tough one. That's the one that the tougher of the 2. It is the longest course on the PGA Tour that is on rotation. Goes at almost 7,700 yards, par 72. That really, it's kind of smaller than average greens. Fairways are kind of tighter. Rough's a little more penal. It's almost built like a U.S. Open course. It's not as fierce at this time of the year, but it can be pretty fierce at times. It's still scoreable. Like you mentioned some scores the year Rahm played. It was like 13 under. But then there's other years where 8 or 9 under wins the tournament. So par is a good score here. And it is tricky. They still had 13 eagles here last year. It's POA greens, which for those that know POA, it's more of a West Coast green for the most part. Not everywhere, but most part. And as the day goes on, it grows fast. It leaves more imprints. It doesn't react as well as the day goes on. So if you're later in the day, the greens might not be as friendly as they were before. Not saying they're going to be horrible, because I'm guessing Torrey is going to be set up just nice, but there will be impacts to the green. And then a lot of kukui grass out there. That's something that I absolutely hate about California golf, is if you get in the kukui grass, it is really hard to get a clean hit out of that at times, I guess, unless you're professional, because I have issues with it all the time. It'll eat up your club if you don't get it just right. So it can be tricky on that course. When you go to Torrey Pines North, it's about 7,300 yards, a little less than 7,300. So it is shorter of the two by about 400 yards. It has bigger greens, wider fairways. It is the friendlier of the two courses. It was meant to be that way because when they have outsiders coming to play, like myself and Jesse, they want courses that don't just completely eat you up and spit you out. They want you to come back and spend more money. So they made the North course more friendly. 22 birdies last year compared to 13 on the South. It has bent grass greens with a little bit of POA. They redid the greens a couple years ago, I believe in 16 or 15, to kind of fix them, make them better, and they went to bent grass there. So keep an eye on that. It'll be a little different, which is kind of weird having two different putting surfaces for the first two rounds. But they're both courses greens are about 12 on the stent meter. Usually you can putt pretty well on these courses. They're not going to completely screw you over. It's mainly just driving accuracy. Bombers do have an advantage here, but at the same time, when Jesse mentioned past winners, obviously not all are bombers. You just got to look at guys that can hit their long irons very, very well. Other than that, the U.S. Open is going to be back at Torrey Pines South in 2021. So after this tournament, they're going to make some more renovations starting, I think, next week. So next year when we talk about this, it can be a whole different thing, and then your course history truthers have more fun with it. But with that being said, Jesse, what key stats are you looking at this week?
Yeah, driving distance is a key stat. I'm definitely going to be on this week. Greens and regulation again, and then bogey avoidance. One thing I looked at kind of was just last year, what Day did to get the win, and he shot 8 under on, I guess it was Friday for him. He played the North course on Friday. He shot 10 under for the week and 8 under on Friday. So avoiding bogeys on the South course is a major factor. I mean, par is an okay score on that golf course, as long as it is and as hard as it is.
Yeah, I agree. Driving accuracy is very, very clutch. Like I said, if you're not going with guys that bomb it, you want guys that have good long iron play, good from like 200 yards out, because I believe it was 4 or 5 par fours or over like 460 yards. Some closing in on 500 yards. Long par fours. Long par fours. So a lot to be thinking about there. If you believe in trends, and last week the trends kind of got bucked with the whole don't start on the stadium course. Thanks, Adam Hadwin. But the past 8 winners have played the South course on Thursday. Then they kind of have a relaxing round of the North course on Friday. That's what Jason Day did, as he just mentioned. And then go into the weekend probably feeling good about their game. Other than that, it's pretty much business as usual. The other thing I read is in the last couple of years since the renovation, the North course is easier, but the way they did things a little differently. And South course is playing a little, since it's gotten away from the U.S., a little simpler. They're only about a stroke and a half difference per round compared to back in the day. We're talking 3 to 4 stroke differences. Right now, the last 2 years, they played about a stroke and a half difference per round. So it's not the end of the world. Like, I wouldn't say completely change your game plan if your guy starts on the South into the North, or starts on the North to the South, whatever. And right now, weather looks great, so I really wouldn't even worry about the stacking at all. Do you have anything on lineup building on that respect?
I don't. I mean, you can. You're going to hear narratives all week about that. You should play guys who are starting on the South course. I don't. It's just hard to. Obviously, year to year, it's different. I have heard that the golf course is wet, so it's going to play, I think, longer. They've got. I mean, you've had a lot of rain in California over the last week, I do believe.
Yes.
And so that's it's going to be a factor that I'm going to consider, which I think makes driving distance, even more critical. But obviously, keep it in the fairway too, because you more than likely are going to get some terrible lies in the rough.
That's the biggest thing with the wetness. I would say the roughs are going to be extra penal because the wet, thick grass obviously is tough to hit out of. The fairways, I'd imagine a place like Torrey drains very well. Maybe not.
Yeah,
it's not going to roll as much for sure. Like even out here in the Monterey area, if I've had the few nice courses I've gotten to play, or privileged to play. We played it rained on the first 8 holes, and by the 18th, you'd almost not even know it rained. So I would assume Torrey would be built that way. You never know. It will definitely hinder things. It's going to be, low 70s, so the ball's not going to be, it's going to still travel pretty well. But, it is wet, but ideally things will be okay there. All right, a couple little fan share things real quick before we get into DraftKings. Guys coming in the last 3 events, top DraftKings scores in the field in the last 3 events. As I need to update this, Patrick Cantley's leading the way at 116, almost 117 DraftKings points on average in his last 3 weeks. Then you got Rahm second. All the Ricky Fowler hate out there because he's played horrible here. He is coming in third in DraftKings points. But then Leishman at 4 is the one I liked a lot. A guy last week that everyone was fading because they thought he was mentally weak after his collapse. The previous week, Dominic Bazzelli is 5th, averaging almost 100 DraftKings points per outing. HV3 came through big last week, Jesse. He's at 98. You got Finau, Wawrinski, JJ Spawn, and Danny Lee coming in very, very strong. When you look at last year at this event, I believe on it, FanShare reloaded and didn't work. But one thing I will show you right now, I mentioned before their course history and current form. You can kind of navigate it around. You can get 2 green lights on their deal, and I'm just going to mention a couple guys. I won't name them all, but some names that might not stand out the gate, but guys that are good form, good course history. Ryan Palmer coming in very well there. John Rahm, Finau, CH3, and one more I'll give you is JJ Spawn. But there's quite a few that got the green light. Somehow Tiger is red. Not sure how that works. I'm pretty sure he's got great course history here. But that's a couple things over there at FanShare Sports to go check out. All right, Jesse, let's get into the DraftKings action here. We've got 5 guys at 10K and above. You got John Rahm at 11.4, McIlroy at 11.1, Rose at 10.8, Woods at 10.5, and the defending champion Jason Day at 10.1. If you're going up top, where are you looking?
Yeah, I mean, I think I will probably have a few lineups with some of these guys. It's hard to see Tiger not being the highest owned, especially kind of in your low dollar deals. But I still think that his ownership will carry through no matter what kind of contest you're in. And he's going to be basically the chalk this week. He's garnering the most attention at this point, and for good reason. Obviously, he's got great course history here. I'm not a huge fan this week, so I will probably fade, and we'll see how that works out. I do think that a couple of interesting plays are Justin Rose. He's not getting a whole lot of buzz at this point. Number 1 player in the world still. He had an okay week last week, nothing special. But at a golf course like this where you got to hit it straight and long, and make a lot of pars. I like Justin for that reason. I think Jason Day's interesting too, just because he is the defending champion. So those would be my 2 kind of favorite, especially ownership plays up top. McIlroy, he's gonna be high owned as well, and obviously a great driver of the golf ball. And putting is not as important factor because it's kind of a crapshoot on POA. And then John Rahm, he's coming in the best form probably of any of these guys. So he deserves the top price in my opinion. I do think that Rose is underpriced though. So I like Rose the best, Jason Day second, ownership wise there.
Gotcha. Yeah, Woods should be very popular. Jason Day is getting no love at all in this range. So I agree with all that. I do love Justin Rose. Remember, top ranked golfer in the world, has amazing iron play. The new clubs didn't really phase him much last week. Sure, T34, but he looked darn good to me. And his last 2 times here, T8 and T4. So I got no problem with Rose at 10.8. McIlroy, I've heard a lot of chatter. He's already got the Pat Mayo bump. But John Rahm's the other guy. I like Rosie a lot, and I like Rahm. It's tough to get up there and enjoy your lineup when you keep building it out. But Rahm at 11.4, you said it, coming in probably the best form out here. He won here 2 years ago. He's coming out with a 6, a T8, a 1, a T4 in his last 4 events. He's been outstanding, really, really good. Last week was one of the quietest 6th-place finishes I've ever seen. Every time they go and show him on footage, all of a sudden he gained 2 strokes already because no one's paying attention to John Rahm. He's just out there throwing darts, putting birdies in, doing his thing, and he played really, really well. So I got no problem with Rahm. I'm curious to see his ownership with his price that high. A lot of guys, we talked about it last year and in previous years, the top price guy somehow gets overlooked a bit because people don't want to spend up that much and settle for the 6K range. But there is some 6K you can deal with here and some lower 7s that makes Rahm affordable. So for me, it's Rose and Rahm up top here. I really, really like John Rahm this week. I think his bombing ability, his scrambling ability, his par 5 scoring. We mentioned Eagles are in play here. There's a lot to like with John Rahm this week. All right, we're going to the 9K range, and this is a juicy, juicy range. We got our boy Tony Finau coming back, first event of the 2019 season at $9,900. You got Leishman at 97. You got Schauffele at 94. Ricky at 93. Cantlay at 92. CH3 at 91. And Gary Woodland at 9,000. You can start with any of these, with two of these, whatever, and then you're going to be in pretty good shape for the most part. Who do you like most up here, Jesse?
Yeah, I mean, it's not a bad region at all to start a GPP lineup or whatever and just fade the top guys and hope they all bomb out or don't top 10 at least and kind of go from there. Tony Finau's the obvious guy. I've talked about him recently. I mean, as far as like just going to play him this year, no matter what. 6th and 4th the last 2 years here. Hasn't played since Mayakoba back in November, but not a huge deal. I have heard some chatter about people talking about whether or not it's going to affect him playing with Tiger at the first 2 days. To me, I don't buy into that. He's an elite level talent golfer. He's been there before. He's been in final groups on Sunday. He's been in contention at major championships. I just don't see that it factors in. Cantlay's my second play here. Just hitting the ball really well. Putter's not been there. Again, go back to what I said about McIlroy. Putting on POA is kind of a crapshoot. So, that might equal out this week, and assuming his ball striking continues. But there's so many plays in this region. I mean, look at a guy like Xander, 9,400. He's basically won in his last 2 events. If you take out the Hero, which, do you really call that a legitimate event? He won. This would load. It'd be great. Sorry. So he won the Tournament of Champions, obviously, and then he won the HSBC Champions back in October. So pretty good. His course history here is awful. Miscut. But, that's kind of the risk, and he's a really good GPP play, in my opinion. There. Again, I just put the disclaimer on, I never get Xander right. So Leishman's another guy who's definitely playable. Woodland at 9,000 is playable too. I mean, you could talk about all these guys. It's a really good range right here. And like I said, this is a good place, in my opinion, to start your lineup if you want to.
Yeah, we love Tony Finau here at $9,900. It's a really good price. 4 for 4 made cuts here. A T6, a T4 the last 2 years. No worse than T24 in his first event here 4 years ago. Lot to like with Finau. Leishman, I like a ton at $9,700. I think in fields like this, Leishman gets overlooked. When it's kind of smaller fields, people jump to Leishman. To me, it feels like, and want to keep an eye on FanShare and other outlets to see where this goes. But Leishman usually gets overlooked here at $9,700. He's number 1 in this field in par 5 scoring. He's 8th in scrambling, 18th in tee to green. $9,700. He's 8 of 10 cuts here with 4 top 10s, including a T8 last season. He's coming in phenomenal form. A T3, a T4, a second in his last 3 events, a T18, and then he won, I believe it was the Mayakoba over in Asia. So for the last 5 events, he has 4 top 4s or better, including a W. That's pretty damn good golf. Leishman at $9,700, I like a lot this week. I do like Xander a ton, especially for GPPs, maybe more so than catch, because the course history is ugly, and I can't now say I'm not a course history guy. It is scary. At the same time, kind of like I said with HV3 last week and other guys, these guys are maturing. They're getting better at golf. The way we're seeing Xander play now, he's not afraid of the big fields anymore. He's beat the best of the best. I don't mind him at 94. I think he could be a nice GPP pivot in here. And then I love Cantlay. Cantlay, I think, is going to be very popular here, but for very good reason. He had T51 here last year, but coming in a T9, a T5, a second, and a T7 in his last 4 events. You mentioned his putting was horrible. It destroyed him last week. He probably would have won last week. He's 5th in the field in strokes gained tee to green. He's an outstanding play at $9,200. I absolutely love Cantlay. If I had to pick just 2 guys here, it's Cantlay and Leishman, with Finau like a close third. Obviously, I want Finau to win. My bold prediction, like 3 tournaments this year. So it'd be great to start out with one real early. But I like this range a lot. I think starting out 2 guys here is the way to go. 8K range. We got Jordan Spieth down to $8,900, coming off back-to-back missed cuts. You got Cam Smith at 88, Reed at 87, Noren, the runner-up last year, at 86, Cam Champ, $8,500, Sneds at 84, Answer at 83, Grillo at 82. We got Grillo's at 81, Answer's at 82, Keegan Bradley's at 83, my bad, and Matsuyama at 8,000. What do you like here in the 8,000s, Jesse?
A lot. Again, this is another really good region in my opinion. Pricing, I think, is really good this week. I think it is cash worthy if you're into playing cash games, because I do think, again, 6-6 will be at a premium. So if you're in cash, focusing on that, I think is a great strategy versus trying to get the winner and all that kind of thing. One thing I will note is Jordan Spieth is $8,900. The last time he was under $9,000 was November of 2014, I believe. I don't know. I tweeted it out yesterday. So pretty incredible for him to be down here in this range. I mean, he's only been less than 10K 3 times since then, and that's been all in the last 6 months, basically since the Memorial Tournament in June of last year. For me, for that reason, people are not going to be on him, and B, his form coming in is not very good. But I think he makes an okay GPP play for that reason, especially large field GPPs, $8,900. I think you can stomach that on a few lineups if you're playing 10 to 20. Other than that, one of my favorite plays in this region, a couple of my favorite plays, Cam Champ. People are saying, well, he's not been in a big time field like this yet, yada yada yada. But the dude is just hitting the ball so straight and also long. Two important factors this week off the tee. He's really, really good off the tee. So I really like Cam Champ at $8,500. And I think a lot of people will see that price tag in this field and not want to bite on that. I will be biting. Keegan Bradley's another guy. 5th and 4th the last 2 years here. Made a bunch of cuts in a row. Basically hasn't missed one since the U.S. Open back in June. At $8,300, I think he's cash worthy. And then the last guy I'll mention is Abraham Answer. He's I picked a win last week, and somehow I left him off a team. I didn't have him at all. So watching him climb up it was just like a complete malfunction of me making teams. It was frustrating. But anyways, 18th last week, 29th at the Sony, $8,200. I think he's borderline cash there. But for me in this region, it's Champ, Bradley, and Answer in that order. Those would be my 3 favorite plays.
Yeah, if it makes you feel any better, I was all over Answer, and his Saturday was very depressing. He still finished 18th. It was amazing, but the basically, I think he shot even or one over.
Well, I was just more so I think it was on Friday. He made a run.
Oh, yeah.
An eagle, and he was there competing, and I was just wanting to puke because I looked at my teams. I was like, seriously, no Answer. After it's just a complete brain fart.
It happens. One of my favorite guys here in the 8K range at $8,800 is Cam Smith. This is a guy that can contend with anybody. He's coming off a win 2 events ago over on the Euro Tour. He got a T20 and a T33 here his last 2 events. I like him a ton here. He's 21 in strokes gained, tee to green in this tournament, decent par 5 score. So Cam Smith is on my list indeed. Noren, I don't hate it, $8,600. Obviously, runner-up there last year, coming in great form on the Euro Tour, not the PGA, but still, he played well at the Hero, but screw the Hero. But T8, T9 his last 2 events, something to keep an eye on there with Noren. Love the Cam Champ call. I'm not going to argue that one at all. I think Keegan Bradley, you mentioned him. I'm glad you mentioned him. $8,300 for a guy, he's made 6 of 8 cuts here. You mentioned the 5th and the T4 his last 2 years. He's coming in great form. The guy, had a phenomenal end of the season. He doesn't blast off the paper in any key stats, but he's very good. 40th in tee to green, 50th in scrambling. He's middle of the pack type stuff. He's not going to burn you most of the time. It is Keegan Bradley after all. I better be very careful there. But $8,300. This is the guy that's kind of made a transformation, and I think he's going to get very overlooked in this range. That you can get a very low owned Keegan Bradley that I think is even cash viable with some upside here. So I like him quite a bit at that price point. I love Abraham Answer. Again, it's a guy we're on all the time. T20 here last year in his second event at Torrey Pines, coming in really, really good form at $8,200. I think it's a steal. And then Grillo, you've heard a lot of Grillo talk at $8,100. He is coming in good form his last 2 events, T12, T33, and then overall that's at Torrey, and then T22, T8, and the 15th his last 3 events. So he's coming in good form. He's going to be very, very popular. I like the pivots to Answer and Bradley in that range, but Grillo is formidable. The chalkiest guy here, none of us mentioned. What's your thoughts on Matsuyama at only $8,000? Because you mentioned Spieth at $89,000, which is cheap. Matsuyama is cheap at $8,000.
Yeah, it's cheap. I mean, he reminds me of kind of last week where we thought we had a shoe in with Answer there. I don't know,
Neiman.
Sorry, yeah, Neiman. Excuse me. Yeah, the upside obviously is there. Hideki can win. Coming off 51st in Hawaii, I don't know. I think I'm gonna pass this week. So take that for what it's worth.
No worries. Let's dig into the 7K range. There's quite a bit here. Let's go 75 and above, where it's not as many. You got Berger, JB Holmes, the clock watcher, JB Holmes, Sung Jae M, Aaron Wise, who led a lot of it. I'll get into him in a minute. Billy Ho, Luke List, Grace Palmer, CT Pan, Adam Scott, and Kyle Stanley. 7,500 and above, Jesse. Who you liking here?
Yeah, I mean, this is another region again that I think there's a lot of good GPP plays here. I do think M will probably be the most popular of the bunch. At least that's my educated guess. Coming off of 12th last week, 16th the week before. Pretty good price on him. Never played here, obviously, but we're going to talk about that a lot this year. Never played here. So you got to take some chances. That's why he's priced at 7,800 versus up towards the probably 8,000 range or whatever, just given his recent form is good. I think Palmer's okay. I'm not a huge fan of him. Horschel, he's okay too. Luke List will probably be popular like he always is. He did miss the cut last week, and that makes 2 in a row for him. So he's a GPP only play if you play him. That's about it for me on this region here.
Yeah, for me, you mentioned M. Aaron Wise, I'll go back to that well at $7,800. The dude is striking it better than almost anybody out there. He cannot putt. He has the DeChambeau effect. He's putting with the pin in, and it looks weird as hell watching it happen from like behind the pin. It just seems so small, and he's missing to the sides of it all day long. So I don't know what it is. It's his thing, though. It's what he's doing. But he's hitting the ball great. He's a really good par 5 scorer that he can maybe take advantage and help out with some of his mistakes. Again, not a massive par 5 scoring thing, but it could help quite a bit. So why is it $7,800 and you get it lower ownership because of last week? So I like him in the GPP. Another guy is Brendan Grace, coming off a T27 last week. He plays good at these kind of courses. He's not like the bomber of bombers, but he plays well at these, and he's another GPP type play at 76. You can go take a look at. And last but not least, a guy I love, I will play him in cash. I'll play him in GPP. His name is Kyle Stanley, 6 of 8 cuts here, including the top 10. T51, T14, T25, T67, his last 4 events here. He's coming in at 6th in over 200-yard approach in and 5th in scrambling in this field. So $7,500 for a guy that's just making cut after cut after cut. I will go back to that well at $7,500. If he doesn't make it, that's called golf. But I like him a lot in cash with some GPP upside, Kyle Stanley. All right, below $7,500, there is a ton of guys. I'll name a couple off and let you run wild. Dylan Fratelli at $7,400. Played him again last week. Just continually gets it done at T28 last week. It is his first time here, but excellent ball striking these days. Harris English is very interesting at $7,300. He's coming. He's made 6 of 6 cuts at this event, including 2 top 10s, 1 at T2. 4 years ago, at T8 here last year at $7,300. You can give him a look. You're going to hear a chalky JJ Spawn a lot, so I will not go there. But Kevin Tway at 72 has our attention. We talked about him a lot. Coming off a missed cut, but prior to that, very, very good. Obviously, 1 at the Safeway. He's made 3 of 3 cuts here, a T35, a T41, and then a T37 in his 3 events. He is a bomber that, and you mentioned putting's kind of a crapshoot. If Tway's not completely going out of whack, this course actually fits him very, very well. So Tway at 72, I like quite a bit. HV3 at 72, go right back to that well after his T18 last week, coming in great form. 2 straight missed cuts here will probably leave him a little lower owned, which is nice. We talked about him last week, though. Didn't matter. Last few in the 7K range here. Anders Albertson coming in phenomenal form at $7,000, one of the better ball strikers coming off the web and continuing it on the PGA Tour. Killer Keith Mitchell at $7,000 is a bombing machine. This course, if any course is going to fit Keith, it's going to be this one. Coming off a T16 2 weeks ago. He's 1 for 1 in cuts made here, T63 here last year. He's number 2 in strokes gained tee to green, surprisingly, in this field. Yes, Keith Mitchell's 2 in strokes gained tee to green. So give Keith the fall at $7,000. And last but not least, it's a chalky name I just want to mention. It was Michael Thompson at $7,000, coming in really good form. But I think it'll be chalky at that price range. But those are some I like. What about you, Jesse?
Yeah, there's quite a bit down here. I think this is a good GPP region. I do think going back to Neiman this week after he was uber chalk last week is I think he'll be low owned. He was all over the place. He really hit the ball terribly last week, so I think he'll get it straightened out. Fratelli is another guy who I've been on the last couple of weeks, and he's playing really well. 28th at the Desert Classic, 51st at the Sony Open. So I like him again, especially at 7,400. Varner's another guy just playing really well right now. Course history is not there, but again, we talked about it last week. He did not have good course history coming to the Desert Classic and finished 18th, and he's miscut the last 2 years here. Tway's another guy. I think he'll be a little bit more popular, though. He's made 3 straight cuts here the last 3 times he's been here. My boy Kiradek never played here. Super low owned, probably GPP play, at least I hope. Steele's another guy who I like, and Anders Albertson at 7,000. Played him the last, or at least last week, and 34th at 7,200 last week. He was 6% owned, and he's just playing really well right now. So I'll go back to him as well, and that's pretty much it. I do think Keith Mitchell will be chalky. I will avoid him because he's just really super volatile. So
yep, he can be. He's showing some form, but he can be very tilting at times. Let's get into the 6K range if you want to talk tilt, because there are a handful of guys down here that look attractive. Who are you looking at?
Yeah, there's definitely some playable guys down here. Buzzelli, I'll leave that one up to you. But at 6,900, I mean, he's playing really well right now, and just kind of playing for his life. Vegas is another guy, 6,900. He played pretty well the first couple days. I think at least the first day
at the stadium course, but really well.
Yeah, he shot like 6 or 7 under at the stadium course. I really wish the internet would just function appropriately. But so Vegas at 6,900, I think he's playable. Hadley showed some signs last week. He's okay. Taylor Gooch, man. What about the Slack chat last week?
Yeah, our boy MS Squared. He was all over Gooch.
The dude mentions Gooch, and I just kind of stayed quiet because I hadn't looked into him or nothing. And by Sunday, he's in contention, finishes 4th, and that's 2 straight, basically top 15s for him. And you're getting that at $6,800. So interesting play. Kevin Streelman at 6,800, 3 straight made cuts at this tournament, coming off the 34th last week. Robert Streb, he has some interesting course history. I think he's okay. Carlos Ortiz, another guy who I don't mind. He's made 2 cuts. And 16 and 15, his last 2 appearances here, 2 straight cuts made on tour. And then last but not least, Jose de Jesus Rodriguez. He's the guy kind of been around the Twitter sphere because he's got a really, really awesome story. And he has made every single cut he's, played in since the Safeway. He missed the cut the Safeway, but Sanderson he was in, Shriners he was in, Mycoba in, Sony in, Desert Classic in. So if you're down here, I mean, that's the guy who I would be targeting if I'm 64 or below.
Yep, Rodriguez has been my boy. I've been punting with him every week. He's been beautiful. The price is only still $6,400, so I will definitely go back to that well. Like you mentioned, the story is phenomenal, but the golf has been really good. Back-to-back made cuts, T28, T57. He actually looked like watching him, his ball striking was really, really good. So a lot to like there. A couple others. You mentioned Buzzelli at $6,900. I just love it. People are off of him because of his mental case. And, when you're below 7K, they're always a risk. But the guy just finished 5th. He had T11 2 events ago. I like him at $6,900 this week to continue to play well. Joel Dahman, the guy we like quite a bit at $6,900. Missed the cut here last year, but perennially like T22, T37, T41, T29. Dahman puts together some good rounds out there, $6,900. So I don't hate him at all. I'm glad you mentioned Johnny Vegas. This is the guy that played in all the WGCs last year. He's top, 50 in the world. He's $6,900. He can hit the crap out of the ball. He can scramble pretty well. His approach game isn't horrible. He just had a couple bad rounds there out of nowhere. But prior to last week, T38, T28. He's made 6 of 8 cuts here, including a top 10. He missed last year, but the previous 4 events, T28, T18, T11, and T59. I really like Vegas at $6,900. I think that's one you can look at. He can go off the rails at times, but he might not win it. But I'm confident in I don't want to say I'm confident in a cut, but I really think he's going to make the cut this week. So $1,600, I do like Vegas at that price point. A couple others down here at $6,700. I seem to mention them every week. Castro is $6,700. He's made 3 or 4 cuts at this event. He T40 last week. Roberto Castro continues to make cuts. He doesn't finish much better than 40 or 50th, but he gets the job done for, if you need to punt on a cash game, which is weird down here, but if you need to, he seems to make cuts. You mentioned Streb. I don't mind that. $6,700. A guy with great course history. 4 or 5 made cuts. 66, T9, T18 his last 3 events here. Rory Sabatini down here at $6,700. T20 and a T14 the last 2 years. Those are some of the guys I'm looking at here. Another last guy, Langley at $6,600 going in. T12, T43, T23, T29 his last 4 events. He's missed his 2 cuts here, but coming in pretty good form. A guy you can take a look at as well. But my main guys, Rodriguez at 64, and then hanging around Bozelli, Vegas, those kind of guys up top. But there's some I don't mind the 6K.
Yeah, it's not terrible. It's a really strong field, and that's the reason why.
Yeah, I can definitely. It's easier for me to justify it than other weeks when we've been on the show.
Right.
All right, let's get into some finer tuning after we went through all the DraftKings pricing here. Give me your top 3 kind of GPP type plays this week.
Yeah, Cameron Champ would be number 1. For me, I do think the ownership will be decently low on him, and he's got the opportunity to. I mean, what the segment is, boom or bust. Neiman's another guy who I think can kind of boom this week at much less ownership than he had last week. I mean, I played DFS golf, and I've watched golf long enough to know that these guys are so good they can bounce back the next week. And most of the time, people are off of them because they get so mad about him being the one guy who blew up their whole entire lineup or whatever. So those would be my top 2, and then the third one, I'm going to go with kind of a low guy, and it's going to be Streelman.
Okay, I dig it. I had Cam Champ as well, and then Luke List is a boomer bust type guy, and Aaron Wise. I really think you can go back to that well, and he can top 10 it for you at low ownership this week after the kind of debacle that was last weekend. Who are your top 3 cash game plays? Yeah,
I mean, for me, I think a good place to start is Cantlay, Finau, and Keegan. I know it sounds weird to put Keegan in your cash lineup, but his course history is really good. Form coming in is really great. It leaves about 7,500 left on the per player left, so you've got some decisions to make. But I think that's a really good, strong top 3 to start with.
I like all those, and if I add 3 more to them, I had Cantlay, so I had 2 more, I guess. Cam Smith and Kyle Stanley, 2 other guys I'll add to that, but I like the 3 you mentioned big time. Those are a lot of good cash game plays this week. All right, let's go look at mybookie.ag again. Use promo code BENCHED and get a 50% first deposit bonus. $100, get you $50 extra by using promo code BENCHED. Let's get the winners for the week. Jesse, as the page loads, who do you have winning it this week?
I like Finau, man. He's the good course history. We know we haven't seen him since November, but I feel like he'll be there and ready to go. So I do like him. And then if you're looking at kind of more of a long shot, I'm not sure what kind of odds are on Cam. You got him pulled up yet?
40-1.
He's what now?
Cam Smith is 40-1. Are you on Cam Champ?
No, Cam Champ.
Let me see. For some reason, it's just running very slow. Finau is 18-1. While I look at Cam Champs, I have mine. I like Leishman at 20-1. Cam Champ is 50-1.
Yeah, I mean, I would bite on that a little bit.
All right, so you have Finau and Camp. I got Leishman at 20-1, Cantlay at 28, Cam Smith at 40. Those are the kind of 3 I'd look at there as well. So
yeah, I mean, Cam Champ is down to 33 on Bovada. So if you can grab him at 50 on MyBookie,
Yep. MyBookie takes a while to react to lines. I'm just going to throw that out there to you right now. So this is a friendly place to go if you're looking for that plus money odds type stuff. A lot to like there. One last thing I want to ask you, Jesse. I know it's not on the outline, but I saw it when I was searching Twitter earlier today. Let me pull it up here on my phone. Tiger Woods prop bets. They're on Bovada. I just want to get your opinion on a couple of these. It's just for fun, nothing crazy. Sure. But with Tiger weeks, we got to talk about it. Will Tiger Woods make the cut? Yes, minus 170. No, plus 140.
Yeah, I mean, I would bet yes on that. Didn't he make the cut here last year?
Even though he made a birdie, I think, on the 18th hole.
Yeah, he was coming in kind of. Well, this was before the comeback. Yeah, he finished 23rd here last year. Yeah.
He snuck in and then had a good weekend. Couple other things. Will Tiger Woods finish top 5? Yes, plus 400. No, minus 650.
That's tough odds. I mean, if I'm gonna bet that, I'm gonna take the yes, but I would say no.
Yeah, I don't think so either. Will Tiger Woods finish top 10 plus 200 minus 265?
Yeah, I mean, again, the odds at betting no are really bad, but that's what I would go.
Highest score on any hole, over or under 6.5?
I mean, I don't know. He tends to not make big numbers, really, and that's one of the reasons why he's so consistent. So I would say under.
Skip a couple of these. Tiger Woods full tournament. No, we'll skip that one. Will Tiger Woods hold an overnight lead any day, Thursday through Saturday? Yes, plus 500. No, minus 900.
That'd be a fun one to bet, but I mean, I would say no, but obviously, if you're going to bet that, take the yes and just hope he, first round leads.
All right. Will Tiger Woods win a major in 2019? Plus 250. No, minus 325. Got to take the yes, right? With those odds?
I mean, yeah, for sure, and I hope he does because just well as I do, golf needs it. I mean, that doesn't need it, but it would be fucking awesome.
All right. I do not know what his official golf ranking is right now. That is my apologies, but will his official golf ranking on Monday, April 15th be over or under 12.5?
Let's see what he is. I think he's like 15 or something about now.
He should be close. He's top 20 for sure.
How about if you just give me the current rankings? All right, so Tigers. Okay, so he's 13th now.
So over under 12.5. Over is minus 140, under plus 110, and that's April 15th. He might only play in a couple more tournaments before that.
Which is over? Like if he gets to 11th, is that over? Or?
I'm assuming that's what that means. Yes.
So he moves up 2 spots, basically.
Yeah,
I would bet yes on that all day.
Now the fun one here is Tiger Woods' official golf rankings on January 1st, 2020. So at the end of this calendar year, over under 20.5. They're expecting him to fall backwards.
What's the odds on the?
They're both minus 115.
Huh. That's odd. Yeah, I would bet that he's either holds steady or moves up. I mean, from what we saw at the end of last year, obviously we've not seen him really since he played Phil. He looked like shit, but I mean, how much did he really give a fuck about that? I don't know.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how Tiger does. If you had to make a guess this week, what do you think? Does he top 20 at this week?
I would say he'll be right around 20 if I was guessing, and that's the issue with me playing him is that price tag really needs a top 10, and it's really I don't know. He could, but from the ownership game, I'm going to play. I'm going to say he's not, and therefore it doesn't pay off. And if you roster him, you're kind of losing out, but we'll see.
All right. Well, that'll wrap us up this week previewing the Farmers Insurance Open. Everybody go give us a rating and review on iTunes. We much appreciated it. With that being said, Jesse's on Twitter at DFS Golf Gods, the podcast at Always Press DFS. I am at BDentric. And we'll catch you guys next week as we preview the Waste Management Open. But this was the Always Pressing PGA DFS podcast, Farmers Insurance Open preview. Catch you guys later.